Okay, we'll start with this. The continued fallout from Dina Thorsland's lopsided decision win over then champion Yuli Hangluna. Women's ratings update. Thorsland is the new Ring Magazine champion.
Ranked number 1 at 118 pounds, where Ebony Bridges holds the IBF and Nina Hughes holds the WBA.
In a terrific night of action, Denmark's Dina Thorsland remained unbeaten in a win against Mexico's own Yuli Hangluna. And with that win, she picked up the very first Ring Magazine bantamweight title ever awarded to a woman boxer. Dina put on a great show and was truly deserving of the ring belt, said historian Melissa Smith, with Argentine fellow historian Irene de Cetin adding, "Great job from Dina to become our inaugural Ring Magazine bantamweight champion." As Thorsland moved up and created a vacancy in the top 5, the panel picked Turkey's Cetin to occupy the number 5 position.
You want to remember that name, Turkey's own Cetin.
What happens now? I don't think that we're on the eve of a unification match. Another one straight away, not for Dina Thorsland. Ebony Bridges is set to have a tune-up fight before this year is out. Nina Hughes is supposed to be satisfying her mandatory challenger in Jamie Mitchell, who she initially won the WBA title from. They're supposed to be running it back.
Unless Matchroom can pay Jamie Mitchell to step aside, allow Nina to go straight into a fight with Dina, which I don't think is likely.
Unless that happens, Nina's going to be fighting Jamie again, and Dina, before she unifies another title, before she wins another belt, she may have to satisfy mandatory challengers of her own, now that she is this division's WBC champion.
In the last set of updated World Boxing Council ranked standings, Dina Thorsland was ranked at number 1, and Mayeli Flores of Mexico was ranked right behind her at number 2.
Before Dina Thorsland unseated Yuli Hangluna as this division's WBC champion. Now that she's champion, Mayeli will likely be elevated to number 1.
Might be mandatory.
Immediately after the fight, Mayeli Flores tagged Dina Thorsland's Twitter account, saying congratulations and see you soon. Mayeli Flores seems to be anticipating a showdown with Dina Thorsland. It's just a matter of time, just a matter of when the World Boxing Council means to order a fight between them. What do we need to know about Mayeli Flores?
She's a damn good fighter.
She would service as a common opponent between Dina Thorsland and Yuli Hangluna, who Dina Thorsland just fought, who Dina Thorsland just beat. And she's the exact opposite of Yuli Hangluna, where Yuli Hangluna is a statuesque, long and limber fighter that likes to box and punch, box from the outside. Mayeli is a shorter, stumpier fighter that likes to come forward, likes to apply pressure.
Fight in close quarters.
Damn good fighter is what she is. And Dina Thorsland may find herself so confronted with Mayeli Flores as newly crowned WBC champion.
Mayeli Flores, who was in action just a few weeks ago opposite the ring, former champion and Mexican legend Barbie Juarez, who lost a lopsided decision to Mayeli Flores.
Mayeli's a pressure fighter, a volume puncher, and a volume puncher with a great set of lungs.
So where a fighter like Yuli Hangluna, who Dina just fought, has a penchant for sticking and moving and staying on the outside, Mayeli would be the opposite. She's trying to get mid-range to inside. She's trying to bang and brawl.
In truth, what could be both of Dina Thorsland's mandatory challengers by way of both the WBC and the WBO, both of them are pressure fighters. Both of them are mid-range to inside punchers. Cetin of Turkey, who I mentioned earlier.
She's in position to become Dina's mandatory by way of the WBO, and like Mayeli Flores, she's a mid-range to inside pressure fighter, a volume puncher, though somewhat greener than Mayeli Flores.
She's just as spiteful, just as aggressive, exhibits great shot selection,
great punch variety,
though not necessarily the best engine, not yet. Even though Cetin exhibits some of the same qualities that Mayeli Flores does, she ain't got lungs like Mayeli Flores. I last saw Cetin in action opposite the ring former EBU champion Mary Romero, and being honest with you, I think Serena's very lucky to have got that decision.
Don't get me wrong, Serena's a great fighter. She looked sensational opposite the ring Eva Voraberger, but opposite the ring Mary Romero, that displayed that there's a lot more work needs doing.
But even though Serena exhibits a lot of promise, she's a capable fighter, great pressure fighter. She needs more rounds in the bank before fighting someone like Dina Thorsland. She needs more experience.
So as stated, like Mayeli Flores, she is a mid-range to inside pressure fighter. The more winnable fight of the two for Dina would have to be the Cetin fight.
I think Mayeli Flores can offer up a more challenging fight here and now than Serene would.
though stylistically the dichotomy is the same. Boxer-puncher versus pressure fighter, and that's what Dina is.
Dina Thorsland is a boxer-puncher.
Base style lives somewhere in between the boxer-puncher and the pressure fighter. She has the fundamentals in boxing of the boxer-puncher with the pressure fighter's spite. That's why she was able to pressure Yuli Hangluna and win a lopsided decision. She's adaptable.
She's not your run-of-the-mill boxer-puncher, limited to just boxing and punching. She can apply pressure, and I anticipate that because she's not about to unify, because she's not about to get...
She's not getting Nina or Ebony in the ring anytime soon. She could end up facing either Mayeli Flores or Cetin.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown. That's what they say, and young Dina Thorsland has her work cut out for her now that she's unified champion. Men's welterweight news. Terence Crawford says, I was kind of disappointed that it took this long for me to get my recognition.
It took this long because it took this long for the Spence fight to finally happen.
It took this long because it took approximately 5 years to finally get Errol Spence Jr. in the ring with Terence Crawford after most, if not all, other options were exhausted. That's what my feeling was, Crawford told Joe Rogan. A lot of people were like, man, you didn't look too happy after you won. I didn't see the excitement in you. I was like, man, I was happy. I was happy I had to prove myself to the world how great I knew I was, but at the same time, I was kind of disappointed at the same time that it took this long for me to get my recognition, for me to get a big marquee fight at this status at 35 years old.
They froze him out.
Even now, the Haymanites like to deny it. They like to deny that Terence Crawford was blackballed, that what the PBC tried to do was freeze him out, deny his existence. Don't forget, they didn't even want to put him in their graphics.
They want to pretend that didn't happen.
What they like to say, what they like to lean on, is that it's Top Rank's fault. That Top Rank did not know how to promote this fighter, and that's why he didn't become a bigger name sooner.
That's bullshit.
I was chasing Manny Pacquiao probably for 5 years before Spence. I've been champion for 9 years, going on 10 years in March. So I've been doing this game for a long time, you know. I've been at the top since I beat Yuriorkis Gamboa in 2014, and I've been looking for all the biggest challenges there is. Some of them I've been able to capture, and some of them went the other way. I'm just blessed to be the first man to be undisputed in the junior welterweight division and the first man to be undisputed in the welterweight division in the four-belt era. The first man to be undisputed in 2 weight divisions. It's a blessing. You know, when you go in the back room and everybody wants to see the excitement, and I was just like, I got that off my back, it was a sign of relief.
The popular narrative that the Haymanites like to lean on is that Bob Arum didn't work hard enough to get Terence that Manny Pacquiao fight, even though public statements from Freddie Roach from many years ago indicate that Bob was pushing for that fight.
Why would Freddie Roach lie about something like that? In Freddie Roach's own words, Bob was pushing for that fight. And in Freddie Roach's own words, back in 2017,
he said they don't want to fight a guy like Terence Crawford. He said the Crawford fight concerns him, and they don't want to fight a guy like Terence Crawford.
Much more self-explanatory does it need to be, but the main reason that the Haymanites...
They're trying to defer the blame for Terence Crawford not becoming a star sooner. They're trying to defer and deflect.
Get the heat off Al Heyman, because if anybody froze Terence Crawford out and prevented him from becoming a star sooner, it's Al. It's Al Heyman.
You say that Bob should have tried harder to get Terence the Manny Pacquiao fight. That's what a lot of these guys like to say, but need I remind you that Jeff Horn fought Manny Pacquiao, and fighting Manny Pacquiao didn't make him a megastar.
Yordanis Ugas fought Manny Pacquiao in more recent years and beat him cleanly, cleaner than Jeff Horn did, and beating Manny Pacquiao didn't make Ugas a megastar. So maybe you're overemphasizing the role of fighting Manny Pacquiao, the importance of fighting Manny Pacquiao, not that it matters anyway, since it was Pacquiao's own team dragging their feet.
They only bring up all that Pacquiao stuff to take the heat off Al Heyman.
And themselves for supporting him and supporting his B and C tier welterweights.
Look at what they're saying about Terence now.
Terence Crawford said, now I'm juicing. I done heard it all. I can't just be great. They can test me any and all year long and will never come close to seeing anything illegal in my body. I love it. Y'all are my motivation. Keep motivating each of y'all is part of the success story. Y'all be so mad at me and don't even know why.
But I do, though.
They've resorted to slandering the name of Terence Crawford by suggesting that he was on banned substances in the Errol Spence Jr. fight.
They're not saying it outright, but they're implying it.
The way it breaks down. Content creators often like to sensationalize headlines for clicks, i.e. clickbait. So if they can make a baseless accusation, like Terence Crawford is on the juice, without any evidence to substantiate it, they'll do that. They'll do it for money, they'll do it for clicks.
It's obvious why they're doing it. The question is, why are people going along with it?
The night that Terence Crawford tore apart Errol Spence Jr., many of the spectators, and what is this spectator sport, many of them realized then and there that Terence Crawford was in fact the fighter they thought Errol Spence was. That Terence was the fighter that Errol pretended to be.
Many of them realize that, but a small contingent, the substrata of boxing fans, are still hanging on to the narratives they've propagated for the last 5 years. And their only explanation for being wrong, for Terence annihilating Errol Spence Jr., is that Terence was on the sauce.
They would rather drag his name through the mud and slander him
Then admit they were wrong?
They would rather imply that he's cheating, that he's juicing.
Then give him credit.
Real tragedy here is that many of those that are making these baseless accusations are not foreigners doing so behind the guise of nationalism. I mean, Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence Crawford was a fight between two homegrown American fighters.
Yeah.
And
The people tearing down Terence Crawford, the people that have been tearing him down, are Americans.
that's the real tragedy, that the people tearing down Terence Crawford are essentially his own people. It's not the Brits. It's not the Mexicans. It's not the people in Latin America or Eastern Europe.
It's his own people.
Still coping with Errol Spence Jr.'s loss because he's not what they made him out to be. They got it wrong. They got it all the way wrong. Listen,
Look.
when you're forecasting outcomes in a sport of boxing, you're going to win some and you're going to lose some. Some fights are harder to edge than others, but this was not one among them. For years, I told you, Errol Spence ain't fit to carry Terence Crawford's spit bucket.
Just another Showtime hype job.
It's not a coincidence that the same people that were propping up the Glovegate conspiracy after Wilder got his ass handed to him are cooking up a new one when it comes to Errol. It's the same people.
It's always them.
The content creators that they subscribe to, that pander to this audience.
Boxing's equivalent of the shade room.
Less to do with boxing news and more to do with baseless accusations, gossip, and overall toxicity. Toxic behavior.
Garbage.
Fucking garbage. When they can't beat you, they'll make up stuff about you. It's what they do.
They're pathetic like that.
The Haymanites spent 5 years trying to tear down Terence Crawford, and it didn't work.
They had held out hope that Errol would prove to be who they said he was, and he wasn't.
It's unfortunate that Terence didn't get this level of praise sooner, but Al Heyman and his Haymanites, they have a lot to do with that.
The ones slandering him now.
Still them, the rabble of mental midgets who are too emotional,
Childish.
infantile individuals, more driven by emotion than logic, than facts and stats. It wasn't hard to see that Terence Crawford is a better boxer, by and large, than Errol Spence Jr.
It wasn't hard to figure out.
If it was hard for them, it's because they've developed this emotional attachment to Al Heyman, Al Heyman's brand, Al Heyman's PBC and his PBC fighters. It's all driven by emotion, not boxing.
You don't know shit about boxing.
Nothing. You schmucks don't know the ball from the bounce. Why don't you shut the fuck up?
Just shut the fuck up.
Shut up.
Shut the fuck up.
You're just talking because you've got a mouth. Nothing sensible comes out.
You don't know shit about boxing.
You got a boxing channel, bunch of guys, they don't know shit about boxing.
You don't know shit about boxing.
Nothing. You fucking bozos. Just in keeping with the theme of all things PBC, former IBF champion Caleb Plant is hoping to get his hands on Charlo next. Jermall, who's been out of action for 2.5, going on 3 years.
Last seen palling around with WBC president Mauricio Suleiman, the unethical relationship they have that Mauricio has allowed him to remain champion for this long.
In a perfect world, for me right now, if we can get Charlo right away, we go to a tune-up fight. Explained Plant to I Am Athlete. Let him get a tune-up fight since he's had a little break.
A little break.
As Plant alludes to, it's been a long time since anyone has seen Charlo compete. Over 2 years to be exact. taking advantage of someone who likely built up an incredible amount of ring rust isn't in Plant's plans. What is, however, is both David Benavidez and Canelo Alvarez.
They both beat him. I guess he wants rematches with the both of them. I don't think he's likely to get them.
He wants Jermall Charlo. Jermall was last seen in the company of what was then his estranged wife. They seem to have patched things up, and I'm actually happy for those kids. They make a great couple.
What?
Alongside WBC President Mauricio Suleiman, word round the campfire seems to be that Jermall is no longer trained by longtime trainer Ronnie Shields. He has since relocated to Florida, and he's being trained by Roy Jones Jr.
After I whoop him, Charlo, get a rematch with Canelo, become undisputed, and then run it back with David.
Caleb Plant and Jermall Charlo had a little run-in the fight week of Errol Spence Jr. versus Terrence Crawford, and Caleb Plant, in so many words, slapped the taste out of Jermall Charlo's mouth. He's looking to settle up with him under the hot lights in the ring, though because Jermall has been out so long, and because he's breaking in a new trainer, and because that trainer is Roy Jones Jr., for me and my money, it's not looking encouraging for Jermall.
I was a fan of Roy the fighter, even Roy the commentator. He was a great commentator.
But he hasn't turned out to be the best trainer. You can't say that he's having the success in that realm that he had when he himself was a fighter. Very recently, Chris Eubank Jr. parted ways with Roy. Had about 2-3 fights with him. In Roy's own words, Chris lost faith.
He lost faith in Roy.
Started second-guessing him, and he has since enlisted the aid of Brian Bomac McIntyre, who got himself arrested not but a few days ago at the airport. We talked about all of that. Do I think Roy is a good fit for Jermall?
No.
You're going to have to really scrape the bottom of the barrel to put him in a tune-up fight that he can actually win, because he's been out that long.
And he's breaking in a new trainer who I don't think,
I'm not a big fan of Ronnie Shields as a trainer, but I do think he's a better trainer, more seasoned in that department than Roy.
He's not looking good.
We're not seeing Charlo versus Plant this year, I don't think. I think that maybe Jermall, if he's lucky, he squeezes in a tune-up fight this year. Maybe Caleb does too.
Maybe.
Stylistically, just based on styles, the pure boxer, Caleb Plant being the pure boxer, they seem to have a stylistic advantage over boxer-punchers. Boxer-punchers, like Jermall Charlo, you tack on the inactivity and what may be a waning desire to stay in the sport.
I think Caleb is a hungrier fighter than Jermall, even though Caleb's the one with 2 losses.
Jermall is still undefeated, at least on paper.
But I don't think he's hungry.
It's a dangerous environment for a fighter. No, Jermall hasn't lost a fight. He's not necessarily on the rebound.
But he ain't the sharpest tool in the shed either.